Today, Palm Sunday, is the day we traditionally remember Jesus' so-called triumphal entry into Jerusalem in what would be the last week before his death. His whole life and ministry have been leading Jesus to this point, and now it's arrived. John describes the crowd gathered to receive Jesus, a crowd calling out, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel." The King is coming home to his capital, greeted by his people. Many kings and queens have done it, but this king is different. And there's a detail John gives which shows us how. John tells us, Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it. This king rides not a great stallion, not a war horse, but a donkey, and a young one at that. John goes on to remind his readers that this act of riding a donkey was a fulfillment of a prophecy made hundreds of years earlier by the prophet Zechariah. So my question is this: why? Why did God decide hundreds of years before Jesus walked the earth that this king should ride a donkey? The prophecy itself gives us a clue. It says this: "Lo, your king comes to you, triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey." This is all about humility. A donkey is a humble animal without the prestige and power and stature of a horse, good for carrying equipment, not kings. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey. Yes, the king is triumphant and victorious, but he's also humble. In fact, more than that, this king, God promises, will know triumph and victory through the very act of humility. It's humility that leads to victory. That is the story of Palm Sunday, a humble, triumphal entry into Jerusalem, where Jesus would win the greatest victory in history over sin and death itself, through the greatest act of humility in history, suffering and dying for the world. In our world, a world that vies for power and prestige, for status and superiority, for might and majesty, what might we learn by watching Jesus trot along that path into Jerusalem? Jesus, the King who rides a donkey. Jesus, the humble King. Today, may you know the gentleness of the King who rides a donkey. May your steps be marked by that same humility, and may you find yourself greeting your King with words of praise on your lips.